It is showing.
So great. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnana-anjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam tam sajivam sadvaitam savadutam parijana sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hare Hare Bol. Welcome dear devotees to our class on Bhagavad-gita Friday evening here in USA. And my pranams to all of you and to those who are joining us on Facebook as well as on YouTube. So today's verse is going to be 7.23, and without much ado, we will get started with the verse itself. And here we are sharing. Then, where are we? Okay. Trying to share the screen. Why does it not share the screen? Okay. All right. So can you see 7.23? I'd like to make it a little bit bigger.
Yes, Mataji, we can see.
Okay, nice. So what have we been talking about all these days?
Mataji, we have been talking about worshipping the demigods, but Krishna is the whatever benediction we want from the demigods, it comes from Krishna. It is not the direct way, it is the indirect way to worship Krishna. So it is better to worship Krishna directly instead of going to the demigods and worship him.
All right, good. Thank you. Good summarization. So we'll continue on from there with that background and into verse number 7.23. Anta-vat tu phalam teṣāṁ tad-bhavati alpa-medhasām devān deva-yajo yānti mad-bhaktā yānti māmapi. Anta-vat tu phalam teṣāṁ tad-bhavati alpa-medhasām devān deva-yajo yānti mad-bhaktā yānti māmapi. Anta-vat tu phalam teṣāṁ tad-bhavati alpa-medhasām devān deva-yajo yānti mad-bhaktā yānti māmapi. Synonyms. Anta-vat. Anta-vat means moving towards being perished, the perishable. Tu, but. Phalam, fruit. Teṣāṁ, there. Tat, that. Bhavati, becomes. Alpa-medhasām, of those of small intelligence. Devān, to the demigods. Deva-yajaḥ, the worshippers of the demigod. Yānti, go. Mat, my. Bhaktāḥ, Devotees, yānti, go. Mam, to me. Api, also. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Some commentators on the Bhagavad-gita say that one who worships a demigod can reach the Supreme Lord. But here it is clearly stated that worshippers of demigods go to the different planetary systems where various demigods are situated. Just as a worshipper of the sun achieves the sun, or a worshipper of the demigod of the moon achieves the moon. Similarly, if anyone wants to worship a demigod like Indra, he can attain that particular god's planet. It is not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is denied here. For it is clearly stated that worshippers of demigods go to different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to the Supreme Planet of the Personality of Godhead. Here, the point may be raised that if the demigods are different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then the same end should be achieved by worshipping him. However, worshippers of the demigods are less intelligent because they don't know to which part of the body food must be supplied. Some of them are so foolish that they claim that there are many parts and many ways to supply food. This isn't very sanguine. Can anyone supply food to the body through the ears or eyes? They do not know that these demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord, and in their ignorance, they believe that each and every demigod is a separate god and a competitor of the Supreme Lord. Not only are the demigods parts of the Supreme Lord, but ordinary living entities are also. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the Brahmanas are the head of the Supreme Lord, the Kshatriyas are his arms, the Vaishyas are his waist, and the Shudras are his legs, and all serve different functions. Regardless of the situation, if one knows that both the demigods and he himself are parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord, his knowledge is perfect. But if he does not understand this, he achieves different planets where the demigods reside. This is not the same destination the devotee reaches. The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable because within this material world, the planets, the demigods, and the worshippers are all perishable. Therefore, it is clearly stated in this verse that all results achieved by worship in demigods are perishable, and therefore such worship is performed by the less intelligent living entity. Because the pure devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness in devotional service of the Supreme Lord achieves eternal blissful existence that is full of knowledge, his achievements and those of the common worshipper of the demigods are different. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. His favor is unlimited. His mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon his pure devotees is unlimited. Okay, so we're going to stop here and discuss this verse. Hey, Sutapa, I'm happy you're here. Finally.
It's this verse is also just emphasizing what we read in the last verse about how the less intelligent men who worship only the demigods think that all the benedictions they get from the demigods are given to them, but it's actually Krishna who agrees, who exercises the right to give it to them. I think it's emphasizing the point of 23.
Right. So let's bring us the previous verse here. Let's share the previous verse and do a quick recap on how. In fact, let's go back a little bit more backwards. Okay. So let's go to 20.
20.
कामेस्तेस्तेर् हितज्ञानः प्रपद्यन्ते देवतः तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया. What does it mean? Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. So those who are freed from all material contamination surrender unto Supreme Lord and engage in his devotional service. As long as the material contamination is not completely washed off, they are by nature non-devotees. But even those who have material desires and who resort to Supreme Lord are not so much attracted by the external nature because of approaching the right goal. They soon become free from all material lust. Right? In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that whether one is a pure devotee and is free from all material desires, or is full of material desires, or desires liberation from material contamination, he should in all cases surrender to Vasudeva and worship him. As stated in the Bhagavatam 2.3.10, akama sarva kamova moksha kama udaradihi tivrena bhakti yogina yajeta purisham param. Less intelligent people who have lost their spiritual sense take shelter of demigods for immediate fulfillment of material desires. Generally, such people do not go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are in the lower modes of nature, ignorance and passion, and therefore worship various demigods. Following the rules and regulations of worship, they are satisfied. The worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires and do not know how to reach the supreme goal. But a devotee of the Supreme Lord is not misguided, because in Vedic literature, there are recommendations for worship different gods for different purposes. For example, a deceased man is recommended to worship the sun. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purposes, demigods are better than the Supreme Lord. But a pure devotee knows that the Supreme Lord Krishna is the master of all. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 5.142, it is said, Ekala Ishvara Krishna Ar Sabhya Bhritya. Only the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is master and all others are servants. Therefore, a pure devotee never goes to demigods for satisfaction of his material needs. He depends on Supreme Lord and the pure devotee is satisfied with whatever he gives. That was 21, right? Yeah, that was 20, sorry. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddha-yachitam ichchati tasya tasya chanam shraddham tam eva vididhamaham. So let's see the progress here. Okay. So that the person was kamesthestra hitagyana. He lost his intelligence and then starts to reach out to demigods. And then what does Krishna do? I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship one demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Purport: God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord, as a super soul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, he does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world, and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusory energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord as Super Soul does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whether one likes, but whatever one likes. But his ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad-gita, one should give up all other engagements and fully surrender to him. That will make him happy. Which is the verse in Bhagavad-gita that says that? Give up all other engagements. That's
Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja.
Very nice, yeah. And 18.66. Both the living entity and the demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, people who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods as they are advised in the Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such a demigod. For example, a deceased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras, Vedic scriptures, for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod, and so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of devotional attitude of the living entity toward a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigod cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because he is the Supreme Lord or the Super Soul who is present in the hearts of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to man to worship such demigods. Keep in mind that the demigods do not have power of their own to be able to inspire others to worship them. Only Krishna can inspire. In the Vedic literature, it is stated the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Super Soul is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of every living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the Supreme Will. They are not independent. Right? 7.22, one that we did last week. Satya Shraddha-ya yuktas tasya radhanam ihate labate cha tatha kaman mayyeva vihidanina. Right? So in 7.20, we saw that they lose their intelligence because they have this strong urge to enjoy the material nature, right? And then what Krishna does in 7.21, that he strengthens their faith to go and worship a particular demigod, right? And then here he's saying that when the person is going to go and worship the demigod, then he will obtain his desires. But in actuality, the benefits are bestowed by me alone. Say it's Krishna only who gives them. Demigods do not even have the power to give, right? Because ultimately, whatever action you do, the fifth part of that, the 5 parts, right? And so the fifth part of the action is sanction of the Lord. So unless and until the Lord sanctions, even if you go to demigods, you're not going to get what you want. So purport, the demigods cannot award benediction to the devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is a property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. So the worship of the demigods and achievement of desired results are not due to the demigods, but to Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The living entity may forget that everything is a property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. So how do we forget this part? How do we forget that? How do we display this behavior? How do we forget the part that everything is a property of the Supreme Lord? How do we show this behavior that I have forgotten that everything is a property of the Supreme Lord?
We get illusioned, Mataji, by our desires. We get so engrossed in them that we forget, and we, in a stressful situation especially, we just want the thing, that particular thing. If the child is sick or something, we are only praying to the, we think that demigods will be able to help us better. So we forget Krishna at that moment. Yeah, and in happiness also, Mataji, if we are too happy at that time also, we do not remember Krishna. We are just...
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, that happens. But what I was asking was that how do we manifest or show this behavior that we have forgotten that everything is the property of Krishna? Give me an example of somebody who has behavior of somebody who has forgotten that everything is the property of Supreme Lord. What will be his behavior?
Like Duryodhan?
He will say, I did everything, it's mine, and he'll claim to be the doer.
But property, focus on property.
Like Mataji, Duryodhan, he felt it is all is mine. It doesn't belong to anybody else. And
Right. Right. So to the Pandavas, he would not give anything. Right. So yes, that is one way of, not sharing it with others. How about, so let's take in our life, right? If there is some property, give me an example of a property that belongs to somebody else.
Do you mean characteristic like being selfish?
No. I'm asking, give me an example of a property that belongs to somebody else.
Could it be like a service that belongs to someone else?
Property. Something that belongs to somebody. Give me an example.
Father has a house and he is supposed to...
So somebody has got a property. Somebody has a house, so that is his property. Okay, yeah. Give me one more example of something that is owned by somebody, is his property. So house is a property. Like they say, this is my property. Car is his property, right? Okay. So now if there is somebody's car, your neighbor's car is there, can you go and throw your trash on his car?
No.
No. Can we go and throw trash in a river?
No.
Whose property is the river?
Krishna's.
Krishna's property, right? So when you start seeing everything as Krishna's property, right? Everything. And there's a very interesting article, very interesting talk that Radhanath Swami Maharaj gave when once he came to ISV, that he was coming, I think he was flying from Los Angeles to some place, and he was stuck in the airport. The flight was delayed for so many hours. And he was talking to some lady who was responsible for economic pollution, polluting the river, the brooks, and animals dying and all that stuff, right? So she asked, they got talking, and then she asked Radhanath Swami Maharaj about what is your opinion, take on that, because you're a spiritual man, how do you think spirituality is going to help? So do you think spirituality is going to help pollution?
Yes, Madhuri.
In the context of what we are discussing just now?
Yeah, Madhuri. Like, you see, if a person has read Bhagavad-gita, the instructions of Bhagavad-gita, if we have a guru, he directs us to the right path, and then we think this river is Krishna's river, and I'm not supposed to throw things into any dirt into it. And this road is Krishna's road. He has given us, this earth is his, and we cannot pollute it. This air which we are breathing, it is Krishna's. He has blessed us. And for this, many examples were given during the COVID. You see, people were so distressed to get the cylinder for of oxygen. And people realized actually at that time, but still people are going on the same
path, because memory is short. Memory is short. And then what about killing?
Yeah, they are killing animals and eating them.
Right, yeah. Kiran Goel Mataji is also saying, she's typing an address, yes. So you see how important, how spiritualism, people might just think like, you're not a big activist and you're not shouting slogans on protect our rivers and this and that. But that comes as a natural consequence of doing devotional service. It'll automatically come. If everybody is a devotee of the Lord, they won't put anything in the Ganges. Right? I mean, if you go to Vrindavan and all, it's already black in color. Right? So spiritualism does help, and this is what in today's verse, it's being emphasized. Yeah, right. The living entity may forget. The living entity does forget that, but demigods will not forget that. So the worship of demigods and achievement of desired results are not due to the demigods, but due to Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigod for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord. Asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee. A living entity goes to the demigods usually because he is mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity, and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord and the worship of the demigod cannot be on the same platform, because worship of a demigod is material and the devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by the less intelligent living entities, who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Okay? And so he's saying that, okay, you are worshipping, you are going to get the desires fulfilled, but remember they are coming from me. But further on, he's just saying, okay, you did all that, but what's going to happen? Whatever you got is antavat. So their fruits are limited and they are temporary. So whatever you get is limited and whatever you get is temporary. How is that temporary?
Whatever we can't carry anything with us after death.
Where? After death, right? So it's temporary in the sense that in the end, death is going to come and is going to snatch everything away from us, right? So that's there. And then second thing, what he's also cautioning is that those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigod. But those who worship my devotees are ultimately going to reach me. Now that is of extreme importance. And why? Because even if you get the benefit, even if you get the result of going to a planet of the demigod, remember that the planet of the demigod is also going to disappear. Because demigod is also not permanent of the body. Right? Soul is, of course, permanent. So wherever you wanted to go, you'll go there, but then you'll again come back. Either that, right? Or
so Mataji, those planets will also will be perished.
Yes, everything gets perished. When Vishnu is going to inhale, the whole universe is going to go back into his body, right? Including Brahma. So the thing with Brahma is that when this is annihilated, Brahma and all the devotees there who have been practicing with Brahma, they go back to Godhead. But only when they do devotional service to the Lord, like that. Otherwise, everybody else goes and comes back. Like you see the story of Indra, right? Indra is born as an ant. Indra gets born as a pig, like that. So it's just a post, and you come back, and you come down, and you're gone, right? So one thing to keep in mind is that, and a very important thing to keep in mind here is that it is temporary. And then Krishna also says that, right? Where else does Krishna talk about whoever you worship, there you go. He says that somewhere in Bhagavad-gita, right? No? Huh?
Yes, Mataji, but I don't remember the verse.
Okay, you don't remember the verse, or you don't remember the verse number?
You just read it.
Which one did I read? Well, this is the verse. Yes, of course, this is the verse. But other than that, also he'll say, "Yānti deva pratān devān, pitrin yānti pritivrata, bhūtāni yānti bhūtejya, yānti mad-bhaktā pima." Right? In the 9th chapter, of the Bhagavad-gita, he says that. Okay, let me bring up BG 9.25. I think it's 9.25. Let's see. Bringing up 9.25 here for you. Share the screen. Again, Yānti deva vrata devān, pitrin yānti pritivrataha, bhūtāni yānti bhūtejya, yānti mad-bhaktā. Okay. So if one had, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. If one has any desire to go to the moon, the sun, or any other planet, one can obtain the desired destination by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose, such as the processes technique known as Darsha Purnamasa. These are vividly described in the fruitive activities portion of the Vedas, Karmakandi portion of the Vedas, which recommends a specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pitta planets by performing a specific yajna. Pitta is the ancestors, right? Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, raksha, or pishach. Pishach worship is called black arts or black magic. There are many men who practice this black art and they think that this is spiritualism, but such activities are completely materialistic. Similarly, a pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planet of Vaikuntha and Krishnaloka without a doubt. It is very easy to understand through this important verse that if by simply worshipping the demigods one can achieve the heavenly planets, or by worshipping the Pittas can achieve the Pitta planets, or by practicing the black art achieves the ghostly planets, why can pure devotee not achieve the planet of Krishna or Vishnu? Unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live. And because they do not know of them, they fall down. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahmajyoti. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire society to the effect that by simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. Now, interesting thing that as we do our devotional service to the Lord, right? And so now from this verse, it might appear that, okay, fine, I should now go to try to go back to Godhead, right? But when it comes to going back to Godhead, now there are so many things, co-regulative principle, chanting of 16, this and that, and it becomes a very difficult thing. So it becomes a little bit, one might just think that it is easy. I just go and worship the demigods. And then in Bhagavad-gita also, Krishna is saying that, okay, yeah, they are worshiping me indirectly, they are doing this, so I can just go and do that. Okay. But in this verse, as we were looking at this verse, in the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada has explained so very nicely that if one may desire to go to the moon, yeah, right, you have to follow specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose. So there's a particular, so even if you have to go to even if you have to worship a demigod, then you have to worship it in the proper way, whatever way has been recommended for the demigod. Now, if you go to India, you won't get a chance to see that in America, but if you go to India, then there is a lot of worship going on, right? And for Ganesha, very popular because it removes obstacles, right? And so they will start, okay, let's come together, big pandal, and they will be there. And before the worship begins, then there are filmy songs that are going on. People are dancing. There'll be a little bit of a Ganesh something, right? And then after that, eat prasadam, and again, some more filmy song. So it is also not easy to do the demigod worship. Demigod worship also requires a certain time. It has to be followed according to the Vedic principles. I mean, there are so many people also worship others, right? Other people, like Amitabh Bachchan, temples, right? The film stars, people worship. Okay. And sometimes people might say, okay, they worship ancestors. They are supposed to worship their ancestors. They get that from cultural momentum, that I'm supposed to worship this, I'm supposed to worship that. It is, if I don't do it, then I will have a debt in my place, right? But the Srimad Bhagavatam says that devarshi bhutapta nirnam pratinam na kinkaro nayam rinicharajan sarvatmana yasharanam saranyam gato mukundam parihitta kartum. So if a person has surrendered, completely and fully to Mukunda, right? Mukunda is Krishna. So if a person surrenders to Mukunda or to Krishna, then such a person has got no obligations left in his life. And what are the obligations that we have in life? The obligations that we have in life is that this Srimad Bhagavatam that we are reading has been written by somebody, written physically by Ganesha, was spoken by somebody, right? Right? Vyasdeva. Right? So devas and then the demigods. So like Varshana Mataji, you were saying, giving the example of COVID, where you said that during COVID, when people were finding difficulties to get the oxygen mask, that's when we realized that we get so much of air for free, right? So it is not for free. We think that is air for free for us. But when people go and do demigod worship of the demigod of air, they are actually paying the bill. Just as when you use electricity, you have to pay the bill for the electricity. Similarly, for the sunshine, you should pay the bill. And that bill is paid in the form of doing yagyas and offering it to sun god, right? Similarly to the wind god, like that. So these are activities that people do. So that is, we have a debt to them. So deva, devatas, demigods, rishi, deva rishi. So rishis, because we get spiritual wisdom from them. So to the rishis, so deva rishi, bhut. Bhut means the living entities. For example, the cow gives you milk. Aren't you indebted to the cow? Right? Similarly, the mother takes care of us, or, the nurse takes care of us, the teachers teach us, the bus driver drives you, the aeroplane pilot flies you. You are intended. They are doing things for you, right? We just get off the plane, even forget to say thank you to the air hostess, right? But we are indebted to them. So the bhut, right? Apta means relatives, right? Relative, who are our relatives? To whom we are indebted?
Parents.
Parents, exactly, because you get your human body from them, right? So similarly, parents are not there, uncle took care of them, aunt took care of them. So we are indebted to all of them, right? So devarchi bhut apta nirnam. Nirnam is other people, other men. Like I said, bus drivers, this, that, right? Some who made the road and you drove the car on it. He made the road, right? So this encourages so much of deep thinking and gratitude that you would have. Devarchi bhut apta nirnam. Pitrinam. Pitrinam is the ancestors, right? Because through the ancestry only you came, you are here, right? Na kinkaro nayam vrinicha raja. So you are not, no longer, for one who is taken to the service of Mukunda, he is no longer indebted to any of these people. Why? Because once you take to the worship of the Supreme Lord, once you take to the worship of the Supreme Lord, then you will understand. You're reading. You all said just now, a little while ago, they are all parts and parcel of Krishna. Right? In the purport also we read that demigods are parts of Krishna. Right? And all living entities are also part. That's what Prabhupada said. Everybody else is also part and parcel of Krishna. So when you start looking at that with that vision, that you're understanding that everybody is part and then you're worshiping Krishna, then those are also automatically worshipped because they are parts of Krishna. So you don't, even if you have to get rid of the debt that you owe to them, right? You don't have to necessarily say, oh, now Shraddha Mataji told me on Friday, March 21, that, I'm breathing the air and of course Pavan is doing something about it. I've got the sunshine, I've got something to do about it. And now I should go and start worshipping the demigods. No. If you're worshipping Krishna, then those are automatically worshipped. It takes care of everything for you.
One question comes to my mind, that many people do not serve their parents as they should. And many parents are actually suffering these days because of both husband and wife are working and they are not, they feel their burden on them and they put them in the old age home and all that. So in that case, Mataji, isn't this Pitra Bhakti, isn't this important to serve our parents? Because
there's a difference between service and there is a difference between debt, right? So this verse is talking about the death that the parents have died, and then you do the Shraddha. And you're doing that, they're talking about that kind of a debt that you have for your parents. You will serve your parents, but then if you have to leave your parents for a higher cause, leave your relatives for a higher cause, and that higher cause, there can be no higher cause, then there's only one higher cause, and what is that?
Serving Krishna and spreading the name of Krishna.
Yeah, so if you have to leave that for that cause, it's okay. It sounds brutal.
Yes,
right? You're leaving for a higher cause.
Because I remember the example of Radheshyam Prabhuji. His parents were not well, and he bought a place close to the temple. It means he took on rent, or how he did that, I don't know. But parents were living close by. He took care of them, and he was taking care of the temple also.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Right? So just saying that I will not leave, I will not dedicate myself to Krishna consciousness because I have parents is not the right thing. The right thing is what he did, right? Struck a balance. When he had to leave, he left. At that time, his parents might have felt odd and bad, right? But when his parents really needed him, he came back and did it. Right? For example, when a sannyasi takes sannyas, he leaves his family. Right? But Kesha Bharati Maharaj's mother was sick. And there was nobody to take care of her, so he came and took care of his mother. And guess what? Towards the end of it, her mother got initiated from him. So you never know what the higher court, right? Higher court could be this way or could be that way as well. So this demigod, so once you go to Krishna, and the interesting thing about this whole thing, that number one, he's saying that is a temporary thing. So that's why he's saying alpa-medhasām. You're a person of less intelligence. Why you're a person of less intelligence? Because you're betting on the wrong horse. Right? You are betting and you're going after something which is temporary instead of going after something which is permanent. Right? And Krishna has everything. Okay. What all things are there? 6 things Sukomal are there, Mataji? Krishna has. Aishwar?
ऐश्वर्यस्य समग्रस्य वीर्यस्य यशसा श्रिया ज्ञान वैराग्ययोश्चैव षण्णं भव इति घनम्.
Right?
So full health, full wealth, knowledge, beauty, renunciation.
Strength, power, right? So anyway, so you will go to that person who has got full of everything, who's full of all these. So do you think he will not give you? If you deserve and if it is right for you, he will give it to you, right? But we are like children, you know, we want chocolate, although it's bad for our health, we will give it. If the parents give it to them, it's not good for the child, it's bad for the child. So Krishna is doing tough love. Demigods do not do tough love. You followed a certain sequence, demigods have to appear.
And what is the shloka number Mataji recited just now?
I don't remember, Shraddha.
Yeah, I don't remember it either, but it is in nityasankirtan.com.
Is it?
I'll tell you.
Just look it up and tell us. Yeah, I don't remember the top of my head. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so what I was talking about, I kind of lost track.
Demigods will give you whatever you want.
Yeah, demigods will give you what you want without, because they and Krishna is going to do some tough love for you. He's not going to let you take it easy. That okay, fine, you know, Krishna, whatever, if you think that something you're asking for is going to be detrimental for your service in the end, then he will not do it. And these kind of things Krishna will do only to his devotees, right? Sometimes you notice that if a parent really loves the child, the parent's favorite child also gets scolded the most, right? Because the parent really, really wants good for this child. For others, and the child is disrespectful and all, that parent might also just give up and say, okay, you go to, wherever you are going to, but you will suffer like that. So Krishna is a parent. He also does the same thing for us, right? But when you turn to Krishna, as long as we don't turn to Krishna, our life is in the hands of whose hands?
Demigods.
Maya.
Correct, right? So the hands of Maya. But the moment you turn to Krishna and you surrender to Krishna, you are surrendered, right? Which is basically saying that.
What did you say?
I give up, right? I surrendered. I cannot do anything more now. You take care. So you ask Krishna to take care, right? You ask Krishna to take care, Krishna will take care, right? And by the time we do a true surrender, right? By the time we do a true surrender of Krishna, to be able to do true surrender of Krishna, we have already been purified a lot, right? So, interesting thing to note is that I can go to Krishna for various reasons and at various different levels of consciousness in my head. Chaturvija bhajante maam, jana sukritino arjuna, arto jigyasu artharti, yānti bharata rishabha. 4 types of people come to Krishna, right? So you want something, artharti. You want something, that's why you're going to Krishna. Okay? So that could be a reason people go to Krishna. And then when you go to Krishna, you ask for something materialistic, right? You are artharti, right? Artharti, you wanted something from Krishna, you'll get from Krishna, but it's a material thing. And the other words for saying, akama sarvo kamo va moksha kama dharati tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta parishamparam. That whether you have got no desires, whether you have desires, you should worship the Krishna. So this means, this verse is saying, if you have desires, you should worship Krishna. So if I have desires to worship to Krishna, then what is wrong with me desiring to worship demigod, right? Because both of them are fulfilling my material desires. What's wrong with doing that, right? So number one is, because both are material, so even if Krishna gives it to you, it will be alpa. It will be short-lived, both of them, right? But one thing to understand is that when you're taking to Krishna consciousness, when you take into Krishna consciousness, you just cannot take to Krishna consciousness from any level. You will have to be elevated to the level of goodness. But you can worship the demigods, as today's verse is saying, from the level of ignorance and the level of passion. You could do that. You could get your stuff, like those who worship the ghost and all that, right? They are at the lowest. They're the level of ignorance. They're asking for them, and then they will get it. Right? Now imagine that if a person is worshipping a demigod, the demigod gives him the material things. He was already in the mode of passion. He will get this material thing. Maybe his mode of passion will increase, but certainly he's not going to get elevated to the mode of goodness just by this part of it, right? So if you are dedicated to demigods, the only hope for you is that somebody comes like Srila Prabhupada and comes and blesses you and slaps you into safe, right? That's the only hope. On the other hand, if you are taking to Krishna consciousness, the process of worshipping Krishna will bring us to the mode of goodness. However, even after that, he says, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti mahatma sudurlabha. Bahunam janmanam ante. That is after many
Out of many births.
So if after you are worshipping Krishna, right? Jnanvan was a jnani trying to understand Krishna. The connection was there. So after worshipping Krishna for many years, you will get to come to the understanding that Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Once you understand that Vasudeva Sarvamiti, then you will surrender. And it is happening Bahunam Janmanam Ante. And now here you are worshipping a demigod. Just imagine how much longer it's going to take you.
Many births.
So right. So that's why it is saying Akama Sarva Kamava. Even if you have Kama, it says that you should go to Krishna. Right? Now, when you go to that, reach that particular level where you say, okay, Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha, when Vasudeva Sarvamiti, once you have understood that Vasudeva is Sarvam, Vasudeva is everybody, so then that is fine. Then you will start the real surrender. Okay, before that you will just, you will follow the demigods and you are just less intelligent, right? So, one of the things that we read in the verse today, Kamistestra Hitra Jnana, right? Kamistestra Hitra Jnana was 7.20. So Kamistestra Hitra Jnana, so he says that their intelligence is stolen away. If you are full of desires, your intelligence gets stolen away, right? So question here is, what is that intelligence that gets stolen away? When we are so full of material desires, what is that intelligence? Right? So our intelligence got stolen. So what do we
the intelligence of understanding that I am not the body, I am the soul, and this body is perishable, and I'm asking things for this purpose only, and which is as it is going to be destroyed. So why ask things for this body, for the satisfaction of this body?
That is true, but Krishna here is saying that those who do the worship of demigods are less intelligent, right? And so these things that you said could apply even to a person who is going sakam, akama sarvo kamo va moksha kama udharidi. So he is sakam, but he's going to Krishna. So those things are still there in him, that he is, he considers him to be the body. He wants to enjoy this material. That thing is in both of them, right? So intelligence of both of them is less, right? But here he's saying that those whose intelligence, kames tesra hita jnana, right? The jnana gets, the intelligence is lost, right? What is that intelligence that is lost between the person who goes to demigods and the person who surrenders to Krishna? Is the one who goes to Krishna understands that Krishna is the supreme. One who goes to demigod thinks, chalega, koi bhi, anybody and everybody can give it to me. He doesn't understand that demigods do not have the power to give anything to him, right? So his connection with Krishna is not there, right?
No.
But but if in these verses that we saw, right, in 7.21, 7.22, right, Mayyeva vihitani tan. So a devotee says that, okay, Even if somebody is going after demigods and he's getting something, he's getting it because Krishna is empowering the demigods. I will just go to Krishna. He'll say that, right? So, and then of course today's verse is saying, also saying his intelligence. Anta-vat tu phalam teṣāṁ. He understands. In 5th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, we read that. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yunaya evate adi antavanta kaunteya. There also antavanta tu kaunteya. Here it is antavat, there it was antavant tu kaunteya. Nateshu ramate badha. Right? So yehi samsparshaja bhoga, like you said, that he thinks himself to be the body. And in 5.22 is the verse. So it says that yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yunaya evate. So the pleasures that we get in life are, the soul is sensing and feeling that pleasure. Why? Because number one, it thinks it's the body, number one. And number two, the body is touching the objects of the senses. Like my tongue is touching a rasgulla. So I as a soul are feeling good. Why? Because I think I'm the tongue. Right? Similarly, when my eyes go and touch a beautiful picture, I feel happy. Beautiful scenery, I feel happy. Right? So, yehi samsparshaja bhoga. So always remember that your senses always go and touch the sense objects, and they are very sticky. Right? They say, na, aankhein hataye nahi hat rahi thi. What do you mean, aankhein hataye nahi hat rahi thi? Kyun nahi hat rahi thi? Chipak gayi thi. The eyes you could not move the eyes because he was stuck.
Mesmerized by beauty.
Yeah. They say that, right? So, yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yunaya evate. But these are, all these pleasures are actually sources of unhappiness. Right? Adi antavat tu kaunteya. So Krishna is telling to Kaunteya Arjuna, he's saying Adi antavat. There is a Adi, there is a beginning to this, and then there is an end to that. Yehi samsparshaja yoga dukkha yunaya evate adi antavant kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Buddha means the intelligent. Those who are intelligent do not engage in these kinds of activity. So the intelligent are these people. So that's why as you increase and progress in devotional service, your spiritual intelligence continues to grow. And when your spiritual intelligence grows, then you are becoming a Buddha. And you're saying, I will not have that. Okay, so you see there is a gradation in our progress also. At the lowest level, we want to enjoy something, we go to a demigod. Evolved a little bit, we want to enjoy something, let me go to Krishna only. Still higher level, I should not be enjoying it. This is Rasgulla is for Krishna. Like that, because I understand and I believe that everything in this world is actually the property of Krishna. Right? So how can I take anything from there? How can I overtake things from there? Right? Krishna has provided these. One might just argue and say, yeah, but didn't Krishna provide all these things to me? What were the trees meant for? There's an apple. I'm supposed to eat it, right? You said that. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Yeah, yo me bhaktya prachiti. This is all, he has created, but I'll offer it to Krishna. It is all for me. Yes, it is for you, but we should not overeat. Yukta ahara viharasya. That's why it says, you just take as much as it is necessary for you. And leave it there for others. Like that. Right? So, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yachkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita ma grida kasyatid dhanam, which is tena tyaktena bhunjita. What has been tyaktena? Set aside as your quota. You should only enjoy that. Do not covet what belongs to the others. Right? Do not go for it like that. So all this is coming because there is Krishna consciousness in our head, being conscious of Krishna, right? Now you might just ask, and I think last week the question was asked, and I'm just repeating it here, that when after talking and doing so much of bashing of demigod worship, then we see instances in our Shastras of people worshipping the demigods, like Arjuna, right? Arjuna went and worshipped the sun god, and he got some weapons, right? And then like that. So he was worshipping demigods. Okay. But we have to understand that this Mahabharata play is there for, it's a play meant to give lots of messages to us, lower souls, definitely lower than Arjuna, right? So he knew, why is he getting the Gandhi? He's not getting the Gandhi for himself. He's bringing it for the protection and then for the future when he will fight in the dharma, right? The dharma yuddha that he will do. Okay? Similarly, even after Krishna completes speaking the Bhagavad-gita, he asks Arjuna to worship Bhadrakali. It's like, what? Why are you doing that? Like that, right? So again, Arjuna by that is demonstrating, because why? Because there are people at such a low level that they don't even want to worship Bhadrakali. So at least if they see Arjuna is doing it, they will follow that. And from that level, their progress will be there. It will be very, very slow. Like that. So sometimes you will see the gopis used to worship Katyayani, right, Durga, so that they get a husband like Krishna. So they're worshipping demigods. Again, that was the general pratha of those days, the general thing that was done, the tradition of those days, to worship. So they did not break the tradition, because they're telling people, hey, don't break the traditions. Because to break the traditions also, you have to be at a very high level. Devarshi bhutapta nirnam pratinam na kinkaro nayam reni charajam sarvatmana ya sharanam saranyam. For you to break all these traditions, okay, I heard on Friday, I don't have to do any shraddha for my parents. Are you at that level of surrender to Mukunda? If you are surrendered to Mukunda, then you can get away with all these traditions. And up until you reach that state, you have to continue to stay there. Okay? So we need to keep that in mind. So I'll stop here if we are on the top of the hour, and take any questions or reflections that you may have.
Can I ask a question? It's not a question, it's maybe more
observation,
a better understanding. Yeah. So in 721, he says, I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. So, but earlier also we learned how he expands himself to Mahavishnu, and then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and then Shirodakshaya Vishnu. And then, if I remember correctly, it is Shirodakshaya Vishnu who is in everybody's super soul, as a super soul. So, and then, so I think of when he expands himself, he still knows everything about Shirodakshaya being, Vishnu being everywhere. Like, I know he's all one, but still it seems to me like, oh, they are different. How do I understand this much better?
No, it's fine to have that differentiation. There is difference. There are differences. For example, the Shirodakshaya Vishnu does not have a peacock feather. He does not play the murali.
Yeah.
Right? So there are differences. He's just showing you a different angle or a different aspect of it. And it's okay. You don't have to just say that now Krishna is there and Krishna is everywhere. He is manifesting in this way by expansion. And actually, Shirodakshaya Vishnu, first Krishna expands into Balram, then Balram expands into, 4 Chaturvyuha. And then from the first Chaturvyuha, another Chaturvyuha comes from there, Narayan comes, and like that. So the multiple expansions happen, and then finally you get Shirodakshaya Vishnu. But essentially, they are coming from the same place. And the Brahma Samhita says, let me bring up the verse from Brahma Samhita. It's a very nice verse to understand.
Mataji, I need to leave. I need the permission.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. I was a little disheartened that your cell phone was not working.
No, Mataji, what happened, like the Zoom was frozen. So I could not, and it was showing that there is some crash or something. So I was really scared. I thought maybe the laptop crashed, but it's not. And then again, I tried and it started working, the Zoom.
Good.
Sorry, Mataji.
No problem at all. No problem. I'm happy you could join.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So let me bring up the, let me share the screen. Brahma Samhita 5.46. Deeparchireva hidashantaramapyupetya deepayate vivritahetu samana dharma yastagra eva hi cha vishnutaya vibhati govindamati purusham tamaham bhajami. So he's saying the light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who manifests himself equally in the same mobile manner in his various manifestations. Right? So he's there, and they're same in the quality, in the sense that they're all Vishnu Tattva, but there are subtle differences there. And so you can continue to see them as long as you understand in your mind that they are expansions of Krishna. It's okay to see that.
Okay.
Like the Paramatma will not go and have any of these pastimes that Krishna has. To have those pastimes, only Krishna will do. In that form, he'll come and he'll do those pastimes. Vishnu is more in the, is like a manager. Krishna plays, he's the owner, he plays. But it's all Krishna. In one sense, it is all, right? I mean, just you took one candle and you lit other candles, but the original candle is still there, right? Other candles are also the same, but the original, there has to be one original candle. That original is Krishna. So keep that in mind. That, it's a candle burning in your heart.
So Mataji, like Mamandev, Gautam Buddha, and many other incarnations of Krishna. They are Krishna. So, I mean, there's no, to know them, it is good to know that Mamandev came and he did this work, and so on. I mean,
absolutely, yes, to understand Krishna.
But main is Krishna.
The main name is Krishna because you'll go to Golok Vrindavan, right? If you worship Vishnu, then you go to Vaikuntha planets. And Golok is the highest Vaikuntha planet. Vaikuntha means without misery, right? So all those planets, spiritual planets, are without misery, but then one is the highest, where you engage in all these pastimes. In the other places, you will be worshipping him in awe and wonder. Just in awe and wonder, right? But when you go to a higher level, then you will have those reciprocatory relationships, like a friend, right? Like a lover, like a parent of Krishna, like that. So that's another enjoyment.
Hare Krishna ji, I wanted to know that if we worship the incarnations, is it as equal to worshipping Krishna, or we yet have to go back to Krishna?
Yeah, so the yānti deva-yajo devan, pritrin yānti prithivata, bhutani yānti bhuteja, yānti majyajinopiman, right? So whatever and whoever that you worship, you will go to his or her house or planet, right? So if you're worshipping Vishnu, you'll go to Vishnu's planet. You will not go to Goloka, because that's where he wanted to go, right? That's, you were worshipping somebody and you get to go to his house. Now, there are instances of people go there to the Vaikuntha planets, and from there, they can always pursue more devotional service and then go to Goloka. So it's like a 2-hop flight or a direct flight. Like that, right? So better to take the direct flight from here itself.
Thank you.
So they are saying whatever Shiro Dakshaya Vishnu does, Krishna knows automatically and feels it, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Krishna
he expands himself, means he still is part
as a continuum.
hard for me to understand.
Yes. And the interesting thing is, yes, Krishna is omniscient. He knows everything. What all is going on, he knows everything. But he's not, he's a maite teshu chapiham. So he says that I'm in everything, but I'm also not in everything.
Not in everything.
Right? For example, like you get the newspaper, you read all the news. You might not be attracted to every piece of news or too much interested in every piece, but you have that knowledge. Right? So similarly, Krishna is there. right? He's created this whole thing, but he has put all these layers of Vishnu and others here to take care of this manifestation. Like that, right? So does Krishna know? Yes, Krishna knows everything. Is he involved in them too much? No. Right? I think, hold on. I'm just trying to bring up a verse from chapter 9 of the Bhagavad-gita, which says that, okay, I'll have to search it. Verse. Oh, it's it Maya Tatam. Aha, Maya Tatam Idam Sarvam. What verse is that? Okay, Maya Tatam. Let me go and look at that. Is it 9.9? Maya Tatam. Maya Tatam. Let me search Google. Sometimes it's easy to search in Google than database. Maya Tatam Idam Sarvam Jagat Avyaktam Maya Tatam Sarvam Jagat Avyaktam. Yes, Google found it for me. Chapter 9, verse number 4. Okay, I went too far. All right, so let's share this verse here. Oh, I got the wrong Bhagavad-gita. The base Bhagavad-gita is what I want. Okay, 9.4. So he is saying, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvarasena. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded, right? So not only is the entire universe pervaded by the Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Shirodaksha Vishnu, but in his unmanifested form, he enters even the atoms, right? Anta-vat parmanu from Brahma Samhita. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So when he says that I am not in them, what exactly does it mean? We just now said that he expands and he goes into everybody in the form of Shirodakshana. What does that mean? So when he says that, that I am not in them, means I'm not intimately entangled in that. Krishna likes to be entangled only with his
Devotees.
Right? And once he gets entangled, then that's the best entanglement that you can think of. What else? Any other questions? Or we call it a day?
No questions.
All right, then. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya
Vacha
Patitana
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. God
Namaha.
Thank you so much, Shraddha Mataji.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Mataji.
Thank you so
Meet on
much.
Sunday.
Yes.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Yes.